Hi, everyone. Good morning. Happy Saturday. Welcome to our virtual education series. We're really excited to have Elizabeth Ruiz back with us. She's a pruning extraordinaire, and she's going to be showing us how to effectively prune Japanese maples. I do want to point out that she will be back 2 more times over the next couple of months. She'll be back on March 13th for acid lover pruning. So that's azaleas, camellias, rhododendrons, and hydrangeas. And then she'll also be back on March 27th for citrus pruning. And I know that a lot of you have emailed me about that. And so mark that date and register now for the classes. If you could all take a moment to fill out, I have a poll going on right now, and I do have a follow-up survey. I'm trying to get as much information. I'm scheduling now classes for April and May, which it seems so weird that we're already talking about April and May, but I'm scheduling classes for then, and I want to be sure that I'm, that I schedule for what y'all want to listen and learn about. If you have any questions, please drop them into the Q&A portion. We'll try to, Elizabeth will, might stop for a question or two during her presentation, but the majority of the questions we're going to reserve for the end of the presentation. And so just put them into the Q&A and I'll be able to filter through them and, give them to Elizabeth when it's time. And just to let you know, for all of our webinars, the recordings are available the Tuesday following the webinar. And the recordings are really valuable because if you have a question or can't quite remember, or you want another refresher of what she said, or look back at the slide and whatnot, it's great because you can go through the recording and you can fast forward, or you can rewind, or you can pause. And so just know that the recordings will be available on our website under the seminar and workshop tab, or we have a new tab now under the learn portion of just garden videos. So you can also see that there. All right, well, I don't want to waste any more time. Let's just get to the presentation. Thanks so much, Elizabeth, for being with us again, and we look forward to your presentation.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. My name is Elizabeth Ruiz. My company name is Go With Nature. I just want to put a face to the voice. I decided to don't do the presentation in the way I did it before the last presentation because one, my computer freeze. And second, I want to be able to zoom in and really show you things. And when I do the slides, they end up just jumping around when I'm zooming in. So we are going to see the whole editing and everything in my presentation this time, and I want to see how that works. I also have some of the live material here. Well, not live, it's already cut, but natural. So hopefully we can go through that. So let's start with the presentation. Oh. So. Well, there we go. Okay, wait, I don't know what is happening. Let me see how I can fix this. Okay. Meow. So, okay. So if you want to see information about, so you're going to see everything. So if you want to have information about, if you want to know who I am and what type of work I do, you can go to gowithnature.net, net. And we can, you have my information there and a little bit of my history. So the first thing about maples, or the first thing about what I do to approach a tree, is try to look what is the nature of the plant that I'm going to prune. So it's really important to highlight what is the beauty in this plant. So for maples, it will be the leaves colors. They are really delicate. They are translucent. They have a interesting color from spring to fall. So some of them are a little, when they come out really vibrant colors, and then they go back to the color that they are going to be. Usually it's a little bit more like light greens. We have fall colors. Some people get them more than other ones. Fall colors need to have that cold weather to happen. So if you are in mild climates, you will not get it. But in any case, this is something that I try to look at the tree and find what is the essence of the tree I'm pruning, to see what I'm supposed to do. The other part of the essence of the maples, of course, is branch movement. So I always say maples are rebels, because you are going to break few rules with them. So we have the weeping maple here, or the cascading maple. In this maple, you're going to have crossing branches. Usually in any other pruning, I would say you don't want crossing branches. In this case, you want crossing branches. There is movement that you want to highlight, show, and emphasize. Then you have the winter silhouette. Winter silhouettes is something that we get from the Japanese culture, and it's kind of like what they try to say is they are stopping the time. So we need to stop and look at what is in front of us. So that is the whole idea of the winter silhouette. They are actually appreciating the nakedness of the tree. And so some of the pruning I do is to make more pretty that winter silhouette. And then one of the main things that everybody knows is about that horizontal branching that we have in the maples that we want to work with. At the beginning, when they are young, the horizontal branching is not there yet because they are young. So don't try to, find it. They will appear and it will show more and more with time. So the other thing that I want, and this is a really easy, and you will hear it a lot, but every time I go to our clients, not every time, but I approach this problem a lot. So it's really important that we actually get the right tree for what we want. And so the right tree will be the shape, the growth habit, and the size. So the shape, I have here 3 examples of good shapes for maples. They have the rounded, so it's like what people will call like lollipop. And so it will be like a trunk, or can be multi-trunk, but the foliage is a little bit rounded in the form of the tree. We do have I call GH, is for growth habit. The growth habit is the natural growth that the tree will have and develop. So in this, for example, these rounded trees, it can be the bloodgood, it can be the Acer palmatum, stray species. They develop this horizontal branching. So my growth habit in this one will be horizontal branching. In this one, we do have maples that had that V shape. So V shape is how the structure, so the main scaffolds, the trunks will develop. So it has that V shape. And in that V shape, we do have in the growth habit that horizontal branching. But in this case, the horizontal branching is really small. So at the beginning, V-shaped trees are really strong in the upper section and really skinny in the lower section. And the horizontal branching is mostly here. And then with time, you will see it in another slides I have, these branches are gonna start growing. They start growing and they develop a little bit more. But in general, the size, the shape is a V shape and is done by the structure, the main scaffolds. So then we have the dome shape, which is kind of like the weeping, cascading plants that the lace leaf maples. The growth habit is the cascading branching. So try to pick up we have the right plant for what you want. We have so many species, variations of maples that you can actually say, you know what, I want a rounded tree that is a small, 12 feet tall, and that grows slow, instead of getting something that is really big and that you're going to be fighting at it. I was talking with one of my clients and I said, you know, when you buy maples, because he got maples and he got a maple that was V-shaped, and he bought it because he liked the red color of the bark. And he asked me to make it weeping because that is what he wanted it. And so I had to explain to him that, you know, like, is what you do with pruning is emphasizing the beauty of the tree and not fighting with it. So
Elizabeth, can I just ask you a quick question?
yeah.
People are wondering if are you referring to slides right now, or you're just talking and then you're going to bring up your slides in a moment?
No, I am showing my slides right now.
Oh, we don't see it.
Oh.
We just see your face.
Oh. I didn't know that. I'm sorry, I'm sharing my screen. I didn't share my screen?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was sharing my screen in the wrong way.
Okay, there we are. All right, we're good.
Okay.
Thank you.
So this is the essence of the maples, the leaves and the fall color. I'm gonna close this. And then, sorry about that, guys. And then we have the branch movement. So we do have, this is the one that I was talking about, movement that will be the rebel of the maples, because you wanna do crossing and you wanna be able to develop and enhance that. This is the slice for winter silhouette, and how at this time we're supposed to stop and look at our trees, because they are naked and there is a beauty on that. And then this is the horizontal branching. So this is the slice for the pick up the right tree. So you are going to look at the shape of the tree that you want. You want to look at the growth habit, and you're going to look at the size. So then again, this is the rounded one. This is the V shape. So you can see your structure is growing into a V. And you want to develop that and enhance that. And then you have your smaller branches being the horizontal branching. And then you have that dome. So the dome shape, and this is the cascading or the lace leaf maple. So in all of them, they do have different characters and they do have different growth habits. And in all of them, what I do is I emphasize that growth habit for each of one of them. So in this one, we have the pruning cuts. So
Elizabeth, can you enlarge the screen? I'm sorry, just everybody wants to see your wonderful slides, and they want to. Okay. If you go on, I think present.
Yeah, it's just okay. I'm gonna do that, but I'm not gonna do that the whole thing, because that's what I was trying to explain, that I wanna be able to.
Okay, no, we can still see you talking, but then we can see the slide right next to you. That's perfect.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So we have the pruning cuts. So in this case, there are a few things I want to touch. Always cut to something. And I always put this slide in every presentation I do, because this is really important. So you want to cut to a bud. And when you cut to a bud, you're going to use only the last year growth to cut to a bud. You're going to cut to a branch, or you're going to cut to the trunk. So that means you are removing the branch. With maples, it's really important that you do good transitional cuts. So the reason for this is that if you have good transitions, you're going to have normal reaction. Your trees are not going to overreact. So in this case, what I mean with transition is the thickness of the branch that you are cutting. It should be close to the thickness to the branch that you are leaving. So, or the part that you are leaving. So you don't want to do cuts where you have, when you are cutting, for example, this thickness to a bud, because then the tree is gonna overreact. So you want to go a little bit shorter, a little bit smaller in diameter, maybe even half size of the diameter is still okay. But when you go beyond that, so then you're gonna have problems with how the tree is gonna react from that cut. The farther away the cuts are in dimensions, in sizes, the more reactive growth that you are gonna have. So when you cut to a branch, you also are looking at the directionality that you are selecting. So if I cut to this one, I am telling the tree to go this way. If I cut to this one, I will cut right here, and I'm telling the tree to go this way. So by reducing, when you reduce to something, you are also telling the tree how to react and which way to go. So always cut above the collar. So in this case, for example, I have the two no-nos cuts here in red. So this one is the cut was had a bad transition, and so the tree was not able, even though this branch is alive, the tree is not able to heal this wound. In here, we have a good cut where the tree is compartmentalizing, so that means they are walling off that cut. So when we are talking about cutting right above the collar, how I say here, so this is our collar. So all this in this tree is our collar. So we want to cut right above. We don't want to cut the collar, so we don't want to do a flat cut. We want to cut right here. So we're removing this branch. So this picture is about bad transitions. The cut was too strong, and so what the tree is going to do is going to react with crazy growth, like abnormal growth, reactive growth. Yeah, and now we have, this one is something also I put because it's really helpful when you are cutting big branches, if you are not able to hold on the branches. So it's good that you remove some of the weight of the branch and then cut right above the collar. So in the case that it's a really big branch, so what you want to do is you want to use also the jump cut. And in this sense, you start with this cut, you go below with your saw and start cutting here. You don't have to go all the way, you just have to cut a little bit. It can be just an inch, it will help. Then your second cut will be in the upper section outside the first cut. So if you cut it here, it's not gonna work. You have to be outside this first cut. That is the major point. So when it breaks like that. And then your third cut, so then you can now cut right above the branch collar. The other thing is this section here is called the branch bridge. So if you don't see or it's not a clear how that the bark collar, so what you can do is you can actually try to, as soon as you leave the branch bridge, which is this little piece here, you can actually realize this dotted section here. That is also going to tell you where your cut needs to start or end. You see, this is what happened with this thing. Okay, so now when I approach my pruning, I'm just going to do this so you guys see it. So when I approach my pruning, I work with the plant cycle. So in this case, I'm going to talk about what is the tree doing and what are we doing with our pruning. So we have winter season. We have, the trees are dormant, so they don't have leaves. The only thing that the tree is doing at this time is having the root growth. So there is a lot of, remember, trees develop with pretty much they are kind of reactive too. They are stimulating by. So in winter, the stimulation is all about the soil being wet. So that's why the root growth happens in winter. And then it's a good time to plant and transplant. For that reason, the tree is dormant. It's a good combination. It's dormancy in the foliage. There is nothing there, but the root development it goes fast. If we have dry winters, I don't know what you guys are, but here in California, we have 2 years of dry winters. So in that sense, I was running around or emailing my clients if it was dry and cold and they just planted a tree, to add water in the soil when it was going to be really cold. I also ask them to at least water once or twice per week if it's newly planted, or just deep water if it's established tree, deep water once a month. So like that, the root system still have all that wetness that is supposed to happen. So what are we doing in winter? In winter, we're doing winter pruning. I call it winter pruning, most people do. And in here, the winter pruning starts from December to February. Sometimes some of my trees stay with the leaves until January. So that's why I put here until the tree loses their leaves, or when the tree loses their leaves, you can start doing that. If the leaves are in the tree, but they're dry, it's okay. That is already dormant. The leaves are not doing anything. They are dead. You are going to have a pruning budget. And I know that this is kind of like a funny way to put it, but I want to give you kind of a sense, a number of how much is too much to cut or is okay to cut. So if the 25%, I know that for most people it's hard to realize what is 25%, but just to give you an idea is you're going to cut half of what it is in your tree. So 25% will be your winter budget. And this is the winter silhouette. So it's a really good time to take a look at your tree, get out with your coffee and look at your tree, see the structure, analyze the structure. So mostly what I do in winter, I focus in my structural work. So what do I mean with that? If I need to cut big branches or major branches or do major cuts, this is the time to do it when the trees are dormant. I work in my winter silhouette by doing reductions and thinning of the branches. So here is the example. So I have my winter silhouette here. So, sorry about that. So this is my winter silhouette here. So what I wanted to do is I have been pruning these trees for like maybe 5-6 years. So I am actually like cutting them often, but you can see that my trees, even though I'm cutting them my 25%, I still have, my tree goes from thick to thin. I still have really tiny, small growth, natural growth all over the tree. I have, like for this is a good tree to show, because the red bark is the last year growth. So you can see I have last year growth all over the tree. So I am looking at my winter silhouette. When I look at my structure, this example is going to show me my structure really easily. So what I do is I start going with my branches and see how they flow out and see how they develop and how they branch out. And then I can see what I need to cut or where the problem is. So the work I'm doing in winter is looking at this. I'm not looking at these little ones per se, unless that you have a focal point tree. Right now, what you want to do first and most important is looking at those major branches. So this is the example I wanted to show you guys. So I found this tree in the street and I took a bunch of pictures of this tree. So in this case, we have this section, for example, and if I'm looking at my structure in this tree, so I'm gonna go and I say, okay, I'm gonna look at this branch, how it develops. So I go from the below, I start going up, and I say, okay, this branch out here, one goes in and one goes out. The one in develop in two. This one is really thick. Oh, sorry guys, this is why I wanted to do the other one. Okay, so it develops in two and this one goes up there. Let's see if the presentation works better then. So then it goes up there. So, and then I go and look at these ones. So this one develops out, they branch out here, one goes up, and then these other ones go out. And so I have three branches here. So if I am gonna cut something, I will cut, so then I have this one inside, sorry. So what I do is I relate my branches. So before I cut anything, I go and see how this one develop, how this one develop, what do I have in front or above, and what I have below. So in this case, I have this one here, and this one has really good branching. So the branch I'm gonna cut is this one here, this one that has this, and I will cut right here. So that is the structural work I'm talking about. I have another example here. So in this case, I have this section, and I have a branch below that has nice branching. I have a branch here, these ones are together. So this one open up here and have also nice branching. And I have this one that develops into this section, and then I have this one in the back. You can see how thick this one is. You can tell how the tree has been pruned so hard that it doesn't have a lot of that natural growth anymore. It's a lot of this reactive growth. So the branch I'm cutting is gonna be this one here, and I'm gonna take this one out. Why? Because this one is actually crossing with that. So you can see, I don't know if you can see it, but if you look, this branch that is coming from that tree, from that branch is from this branch that is really thick, is interfering with this growth and is coming from one side to the other one. So this is the branch I will remove. I cannot show you how to cut because it's blocked by the other branch. In this case, so I'm looking at this young tree. This young tree is really nice planted. You can see how the root system is opening up. You can see the root crown. So I love this example. The one thing I look at this tree that I will cut, just one of the cuts I can tell you is, for example, this one is a V shape. You can see how the tree developed that openness. So I want my branches that are gonna go up and out to keep going up and out. So in this case, this branch start going in and start going to the front and start interfering with this section. So I am gonna go and cut this one. So that is my winter pruning. I am not looking at little stuff. I'm not looking at this little stuff and what to do. I'm looking at the major branches and what do I need to solve for that. So then we come with the spring pruning. So in the spring season, we can see that this is the starting of the growing season, is the strongest growth of the year. So that I put an asterisk here, and that means it's a sign. It's something that is going to help me read what is happening with the tree. So you're going to see this in few points. So what is going to happen is if your tree doesn't grow too much in spring, so the leaves come out, but the growth in length is minimal, you want to make sure that you are understanding that the tree is stressed. So a lot of the times that is related with something that happened in fall. So what happened is, because I look at my cycle and my relationships and how the tree works, I can tell that if something is happening in spring of 2021, I know that the relationship with that is that something was done or happened to the tree in the fall of 2020. It can be that the water got cut. It can be that maybe, it was really hard, and most probably that the water got cut. So it is really important that we before we do the pruning, we are always seeing how our tree is reacting. So observation is pretty important. And this relationship between spring and fall is also really important. So for example, I had a client moving a tree in fall. So in spring, the tree didn't grow much, produced the leaves and didn't grow at all. So what are we doing in spring pruning? In spring, the spring pruning, I started in April to May. It goes from April to May. In some mild climates, I do June. So for example, in Berkeley, where the June is really mild because of the fog, I do a spring pruning in June. In San Francisco, I do spring pruning in June. And I call it spring pruning because I am doing exactly what I would do in spring. So your budget is 25%. So keep in mind, I give you 25% for winter and 25% for spring. So what I am trying to tell you is it's better to go and cut your tree. If you are trying to reduce the tree, it's better that you cut your tree little by little every other season or every season, and that one huge pruning, because your tree is going to react in a different way. So you are going to analyze your cuts. So this is another sign. I'm going to see how my tree is reacting to the cuts I did. I had a client last Sunday. It was a consultation. It's my first time looking at this tree, and he had done some cuts, and every cut that he did, he got some die back, and no reaction, no growth, no anything, just die back. The branch just die back 6 inches or so. So I asked him, when did he did those cuts? And then he say winter. And so I got scared. If he had said, well, I did it in fall, I would be like, oh, okay, it was too much for the tree. But because the cuts were in winter, and there was no growth at all but die back, so I told him, okay, we need to start analyzing what is happening with this tree. So it's really important that you look at your signs. In spring pruning, the thing I do that is really important is thinning at the top half of the tree. The trees, in general, all the trees, but maples, of course, are really strong at the top. It's kind of like, remember that stimulation? Well, the top is stronger because it's how the tree grows. So I'm always working at the top. I do thinning and I do reduction. I'm going to work at the branch definition, and I'm going to show you this in a little bit. And I'm going to create a space between branches. So you remember I did that with cutting at the structure. So now I'm going to do a little bit the same thing in a different way in spring by giving some a space between branches. And of course, I'm reducing in size. So this is what I'm talking about. So we have the top. This one is the same chop tree that I found that is being our helpful servant. So in this case, instead of cutting all the branches in one point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go a little bit lower and say, you know what, I can cut here and leave these 2 branches and thin out that top when I'm cutting. The same thing here. I have 1 branch, 2 branches, 3 branches, this in the back, 4 branches, and then 5 and 6 branches. Instead of cutting all those 6 branches all at the same height, what I do is I go lower, and maybe I say, you know what, I can cut this one here and leave the ones with the normal growth. So I'm thinning the tops. In a tree that is, I have been pruning this tree maybe for 6 years, and so it doesn't have a regular growth. It has a regular growth, it doesn't have a reactive growth. I do it twice a year, and so this is what I come. In spring, it looks like that, and at the end of my pruning, it looks like this. So I am thinning up the top. It's important that you thin these trees out in spring, because like that you get light in the inside, and the inside branches doesn't die when I generated a space between branches. this is the best picture I could take out of this tree. It's really hard to take pictures of this. So I generate a space between branches. I make that flow happen. I emphasize you can see I lift it up from the floor. So I do all that, and that's what I mean with having a little bit of that branch definition. So you can see how in here, for example, the branch is flowing down. So that is done by pruning. In summer, in the plant cycle, we have what is the trees doing? The trees is slowing down, the leaves are hardening, and we have to be careful to don't open up anything because the bark can get sunburned, and that is something that the tree cannot recover. So I don't do anything in summer. And then we have fall. Fall is actually a really important season in the growing, and a really something that you can use for pruning. So in fall, the tree is producing the seed pods, or the seed pods are in the tree. These are the seed pods of the maples. And again, this is a sign. So that means the tree is stopped growing. So when we have the drought for years, I don't know, that we have 2 years of really dry weather, what happened is that maples, some of my maples produce the seed pods in spring. And when I went to prune, I was kind of like, wow. And the tree, it was not just few of them, it was full with seed pods. Usually they produce a huge amount of seed pods. So what happened is the tree was telling me, I grew as much as I'm gonna grow for the year. So if you see seed pods in your tree anytime throughout the year, that means the tree stopped growing. Be aware, the tree is being stressed if it's in spring, or if it's in summer. Maybe, you know, if it's late summer, it's okay. It must be a little bit off. But so you just know that it's just gonna stop growing. So that year I did really light pruning, and even my clients is like, oh, I cannot see through and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, I'm just doing really little because I don't think that your tree is gonna grow at all. And yes, I was right, the tree didn't grow at all. So be aware of that. In fall, the tree is storing the energy in the root system. So this is a really important thing. So if your tree is stressed, you want to put some fertilizer in your tree in fall. So it's an important thing to do, because that is going to help for spring growth. You want to have water in your tree going on, even though it's foggy or the fog stays for a long time in fall. You want to have some water going for your tree in fall. Then we get the fall color. The fall color is what the tree is doing to prepare for cold weather. But also remember that when the tree they develop the fall color, so that means they are actually not photosynthesizing anymore. So that means they are not feeding themselves anymore through the sunlight. So they are just doing the feeding through the root system and the water that you put on them. So that's why that is a sign. It's telling you, I'm not doing this, I'm doing that. And so in that case, that's why watering is so important. So what do I do in fall? In fall pruning is from August to October. The pruning, not this season, is from August to October. So it's really short. I do the follow-up on spring pruning. So what happens is when I do my spring pruning, sometimes I have to cut certain sections really high, and I get some hairs going out, or I get some parts developing. So I go on to do a little bit of cut here. In this tree, for example, I didn't do the follow-up pruning because my client, I don't remember why, but so what happened is you're gonna see those shoots. So what I do is in fall, I come really quick and cut this I go with the line of what I can see the foliage is gonna be. So in this case, I will go with the line here and I fix it. So is the follow-up of a spring pruning is really small for fall, but I do it especially in focal point trees, like the one that I showed you at the beginning. This one, These two, I do fall pruning because I know that there are trees that are kept really small. So for me to be able to still go from thin, I do fall pruning of them. They're gonna have those hairs coming out like crazy, especially this one, because this one is, like you can see, is 8 feet tall under the eave. And so I'm gonna have a lot of hairs coming out. So I'm gonna do fall pruning on that. The other thing that I use for pruning is I do preparing of the cuts. So what I do is, in this case, for example, that I show you that structural cut that we were doing, if I have a tree that is reacting so strong, like this one that I have been using as example throughout the seminar, I am saying that it's reacting really strong because most of the growth that you see is those long shoots, just one long shoot. It's not this growth here, is that long shoot. So what I'm gonna do is when I am preparing the cuts in fall, what I do is I start kind of like wiggling down the branches. So I select the branch I'm gonna remove. I do my, for example, in February right now, I go and do I'm gonna cut this whole branch. So the first cut I do is I cut the stronger section. I let it react. I am controlling the reaction all the way until fall. So meaning in spring that is gonna shoot out, and I'm gonna cut and cut and cut those shoots, and I'm not gonna let them grow. I'm gonna keep cutting. And then in fall, I come and cut here, in fall of 2021. And then in February of 2022, I'm gonna go and cut here. So that's how I'm preparing cuts. I do that with trees that I have to control, meaning I am reducing them really strong, or trees that, like the coral bark maple, that react really strong to pruning. From all the maples, the coral barks, these ones with the red bark, are the ones that react strongest to pruning. So in this type of trees, I do a lot of preparing my cuts. So I generated 2 combos. This is funny. This is something I'm trying to do right now. But we have the combo A, this is the regular combo. You know, you have your fries, your Coke, and your hamburger. And so that means the combo A is used for trees that had not been pruned and that you have a normal growth pattern. So you have that skinny growth, the movement is going with that growth habit. You can see the tree with the growth habit, mainly in the tree. So it's not reactive growth. So my combo is, I always, with maples, I always do 2 prunings. That is my combo. I do my winter pruning and my spring pruning. So I end up cutting 50% of the tree in the whole year, but I do 25% in winter and 25% in spring. So, well, pruning budget is 25 per pruning. Remember, you cannot fix everything at once, but you always have the next season. So then you have combo B, the super combo. So then you have the super Coke with the super fries. So pretty much is for trees that have been chopped or pruned really badly, pruned really heavily. So what is going to happen is, in these trees, you have lost the natural growth of the tree, the natural growth habit of the tree. So everything that you have is reaction. So the main idea with this combo is that you want to slow the tree down. So a lot of the times people call me expecting that I'm going to reduce the tree really hard because it looks so horrible. It doesn't look like a maple anymore. And I'm like, yeah, the first thing I try to teach the people is patience, because it's going to take me a while to get it back. I need to have those branches branching again, because you have just shoots. There is no branching in here. So I am going to do 3 prunings a year. I'm going to use the winter pruning, the spring pruning, and my fall pruning. In this combo, my super combo, I'm going to have a different percentage in my budget. In my winter pruning, I'm going to cut just the necessary, just the 10%. I'm not doing big cuts anymore. I may just do 1 cut here, 1 cut here, and maybe, well, whatever, another cut somewhere else, 3 cuts, and I go for winter pruning. I'm not going to do that much. I may reduce a little bit in the height, and that's it. Then I have my strong pruning is going to be in fall. So meaning strong pruning means I'm going to have more to cut in fall. Why? Because the tree is slowing down in fall. So like that, in spring, it's not going to have so much strength, and it's not going to have that much reaction. So this is my super combo. The tree can take 2 to 3 years to start growing normal again. So that is what I am trying to do. If you come and cut strong a tree that is reacting strong, you're going to get a stronger growth. It's just the way it is. Because remember, the tree is all about reacting. So they react to light, they react to water, and they react to pruning. So that is why transitions are important. That is why, preparing your cuts is important. So in this case, I will do a little bit of preparing the cuts. And remember, you cannot fix everything at all times. So now I am going to go through a little bit of the questions, and maybe we could then go through the live pruning examples.
Okay, this has been amazing. I'm learning so much. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. We do have some questions. A lot of people are wondering, and especially with the warm weather we're having, is it too late if the tree has started to bud up right now? Is it too late to prune?
So if the buds are thick, but they are not opening up, it's not too late. Only when you start seeing the leaves coming out, then it is too late. And then you have to wait until April, May.
Okay, and then for some of your larger cuts, do you suggest putting some kind of sealant over it or anything, or no?
So for the larger cuts, so what I try to do is, if I am having like a big cut, and so something like that, yes, I will say you could put a sealer. And the only reason why I would suggest to put a sealer is to protect the hardwood. So most of the trees, all the trees actually, had this center that is hardwood. So it's dead wood. So what happens is the larger cuts, the trees get take up to maybe even 10 years to be able to wall off that cut. So what I do is I put sealer so I don't lose that hardwood by by like insects eating on it, or by water decomposing that hardwood. So only for those occasions. So it has to be like cuts like this. If it's cut like this, or cut like this thick, I don't. Or cut like this thick, I don't.
Do you, so for younger maples, if you're just starting out a younger maple, do you sort of let the tree have a few years while it establishes the shape of it before you start pruning, or do you recommend pruning a young tree to sort of shape it early on?
So for younger trees, so remember, the younger trees, that they usually have the tendency to grow a little bit off their growth habits. So they just go really upwards or really strong in the growth. So I try to approach the tree, but I only do, for example, what is super necessary. So in one of the slices I showed you, I have a young tree that maybe needed 1 or 2 cuts. So that is what I try to do, like a structural work. So I see if my structure is going well, if my branches are growing too close and I'm hiding embedded wood. So I may just have to release one of those cut one of those branches, something like that. But with younger trees, I don't do thinning, I don't do fall pruning for sure. The only thing I will do fall pruning is when I'm preparing my cut, because I want to still the tree to react. If the tree is young but is growing too crazy, because they have this So when I say growing too crazy, is like growth like this, that is kind of like off. So this is really strong compared with the other one. So if I have a lot of this growth, I am gonna like let the tree like maybe reduce and then come and cut later on here. So I'm gonna prepare my cut. So, but I will do maybe 1 or 2 cuts and then let it be, 1 or 2 cuts and then let it be. And usually it's just structural for young trees.
Do you think it's necessary to prune every year or not so much?
Yeah, that's why I put the combos, because if you are letting the tree grow, yeah, I will say I do feel that if you have the regular growth in your tree, you are not trying to keep it small, and it's growing, I say at least do once a year, winter, to solve any of the structural problems they may have. But if it's a tree that you are trying to keep somehow contained, so then you do want to do regular pruning, because what happens is that control, that makes you are kind of like controlling the tree in a really slow manner, so you don't have a lot of those really strong reactions from a controlled manner pruning. So yes, I try to do most of my maples I work on, I do 2 times a year, and that's why I still have thick to thin growth, and you can see new growth everywhere in the tree.
A lot of people are asking, and I'm trying to answer, but a lot of people are asking about removing brown leaves in the winter that are just sort of hanging on the tree. I mean, I assume you recommend removing them. We've always
I don't. I remove them for the little trees because it's so hard to see the weeping ones. It's hard to see. So if I am gonna do the pruning, I remove them. I just had a big. It was like a 20 feet tall bloodgood, which they also stay with the leaves for a long time. And I only ask my client if she wants me to remove it because it's a lot of work to remove those branches. And some people don't mind to those leaves. Some people don't mind. It doesn't affect the tree at all. It actually protects the tree. If you think about it, when they have the dry leaves there, if we have cold climates or really dry weather, it protects the bats from getting so sensitive to the weather. I was going to say something. Yeah. So I don't remove it. Oh yeah, I remember. So if you are gonna remove the leaves, what I do is I go like this. I go from in to out. I don't go and remove them pulling, but I just go like this. So you don't break the branches by doing that. So that's how I remove them if I have to. In some of the clients, I do.
One more question, and then maybe we can see what you're going to show with the branches. But are you going to talk a bit more about fertilizing and what time of the year and whatnot? Or
Yeah, I can do that.
okay,
Yeah, so Sloth had a really good fertilizer for maples. I actually forgot the name, but if you want, you can ask Jen or me to send you the specific. It's a fertilizer only for maples. So what happened is maples, they don't appreciate fertilizer much. So you have to go easy in the fertilizer, especially if you have it in pots. So they get really sensitive and they actually show burn in the edges of the leaves if you put too much fertilizer. And I'm talking by experience. I actually was putting a lot of fertilizer in my tree. So you want to fertilize, you can always fertilize in the growing season. So that will be one. The fertilize, I try to fertilize. If I have any problems, again, I try to fertilize with the tree. I try to fertilize in fall because it helps for the next year development in the strong growth section of the year. what I do is if I go with fertilizers, if I have just a fertilizer I want to use, so what I do is I try to fertilize with, you know how they say put like maybe this month, like let's say that they say put half of a cup in 3 gallons of water. So if I'm going to use the fertilizer, a regular fertilizer that is not for maples, what I do is I actually dilute it even more. So like that, the maple will still take some nutrients, but it's not so strong for the maples to burn the leaves. So I try to, for potting maples, I try to dilute double. And so like that, I can fertilize a little bit more often if the tree is needing it. And like that, I will not burn the tree. The one thing I see that the trees suffer, maples suffer the most is one is wind. They don't like wind. So wind, they get a lot of burn at the edges because of wind, or just the leaves kind of crumble, or they start looking like half dead or half not, and it's wind. And a lot of water, too much water. So I just went through a client, and when I look at the tree, a lot of, so the trunk was okay, but the branches will start getting black. And when I cut, I realized the inside was okay. It was not black too. So it was not verticillium wilt, which maples are really susceptible to it. And then I look at the soil, and the soil was really, really damp. So they had some dieback. They can have some dieback if the drainage is not too good. So just be aware of that.
Okay, actually, I have a question since you just mentioned it. The verticillium wilt, I think a lot of people experience and don't exactly know what it is. I'm wondering if you have a maple that has verticillium wilt, or first of all, if you can explain it just very simply. And then secondly, if you do have a maple that has it, is it salvageable? Or how do you go about addressing it?
Okay, so verticillium wilt is something that will your whole branches start dying back. So when you look at your tree and you have verticillium wilt in this section, these whole branches start dying back. So as a sign, you know, like we look for signs to see what is happening. So as a sign, your bark will be black. So you see blackness in the bark. So when you go and cut, so you know, if you do, well, I don't want to cut this one because this is my example. If you go and cut, you will see some blackness in the inside here. So then I recognize, because you know the blackness in the trunk can also be too much water and the tree is just suffocating. So you want to see some blackness here. So you will see some dark section is black. So what happened with verticillium wilt is nothing that we can do. So what I try to say to the people is, you're supposed to cut the infected areas, and you want to cut them below. So if I have verticillium wilt in this section, let's say that is in these two branches, I want to cut below, you know, a good few inches below the verticillium wilt. So like that, you don't spray it around, or it doesn't stimulate the verticillium to go down even more. So what I try to do is I try to make sure that the trees are having proper care. And with that, the trees most of the time are able to survive the verticillium wilt, actually. You get the formations, yes, because what happened is you cut so much that maybe you cut a section, a whole section, and you have an opening, or you have just, now you have a tree that grows like that. The trees can, so when the verticillium wilt is happening, it can be like a bad 1 year, 2 years, and then the trees start recovering, and they will grow from it, and it will look like it didn't have anything. And so the trees can live with the verticillium wilt on them if they are happy if they are being cared in the right way. If they're infected, they're infected. There's nothing you can do.
And do you have to worry about sanitizing your pruners in between cuts if you do have it, or you don't really worry?
No, you don't really worry. I usually do just because it's good, kind of like mental health for the client, but you don't supposed to be worrying. The whole idea is that you remove it from the tree. What happens is the verticillium will gets in the tree by the root system. It's in the soil. So you don't move it with the shears. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so let's do this. So the few things I wanted to show here. So for example, we are talking about, you know, doing the pruning with how, like when I was talking about, you know, reducing the length or simplifying, you know, cutting branches that are coming out and distorting. So what I do is before I am, sorry guys, I'm just kind of like a little bit too excited. So what I do is I try to look at the branches and the relationship with everything that is around. So I know this branch is sticking out and I need to cut it. But before I cut it, I need to know where. So what I do is I move around my tree and I see what is around this branch. So this branch, I see where it locates. It goes from here. I have a little branch here that is actually being interfered by this. So, and I have really nice pattern here. So one of the cuts I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut this branch. So when I'm cutting this branch, I'm cutting right here. So you can see the cut. Sorry, I'm like right in front of the video. You can see the cut. You can see the cut I did. So it helps to know. So now you do have, again, your normal branching. This one, for example, is the one that I want to use for branch definition. So I do have a branch here. If I have to do a little bit of definition in this branch, one of the branches I'm going to remove is this one. So the thickness also tells me. So I cut that one. And then I have two branches here going one way or the other one. Let me look at it. I decided I'm going to go and cut this one. So I did my branch definition. Now it's a little bit more open. If my branch is growing like that, and I have a branch here, so what I do to generate those spaces, maybe I go and cut the ones that are going up. So maybe I go and cut here, and cut here. And then I have a little bit more on here. And then my branch looks like this. And now I have a little bit more of that flat branch. So that is branch definition. If I am working in reducing the length of my branch, so I'm gonna show you like this so you can actually see the branch, but we're talking about length. So how long it is. So one of the things, again, I'm looking at my branch and seeing how it grows. And what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna look at it actually. I can say, well, I can come and cut here. I still have that going up, so maybe I can come and cut here. So I cut in the length. You see, now it's shorter. So I did transitional cuts. So you can see that the cuts I did, I still have the sizes of the branch I cut relates with the branches I'm leaving. So it's this one, it relates. So it's really important to, I don't go and cut, pretty much I don't go and cut here. Because what I'm gonna do is this transition is really far away. The size of the branch I'm cutting with the size of the branch I'm leaving is way too small to take this cut. So what is gonna happen is gonna have that reactive growth. So be aware of that. And now this one, for example, when we are talking about you don't know what to cut, well, crowdedness and thickness is also a major part. So in this case, I have, how do I show you this? So this is the branch. I'm gonna move it around. So the part I wanna cut is this one, because the rest of the growth is a really nice growth. So what I can do is I can come and cut here. So now I did one cut and I removed the part that was crowding, that was going up. And now I can come and do the one cut into a bud or something. Reduce a little bit in thickness, and then now I have my branch here. So it looks a little bit like that. So you wanna work with the sizes as well as you wanna analyze what you have. So in this case, I have like a branch that is, again, you can put it like maybe a tree that is growing up in one size. Maybe if I move this way. Yeah, there we go. So in this case, you know, like this part is really tall. If you look at this section, you can see that these two branches are growing too close together. So this is gonna have embedded wood, which you can see here, it already, oh, well, you can see it here, that you already started. You see how it's growing there? It's already started. So I am gonna cut this section. So what I cut was this part. What I left was this part. So this is my cut. So the branch I cut relates with the section I am, oh wait. The branch I cut relates with the section I'm leaving. So you can see the sizes are pretty close together. The cut is right there. And now I have, you know, if this was a horizontal branching, now I have like everything looks more even together. If this was in height, so now I have a smaller height, I can come and cut here. If it's for height, I can come and cut here, and then I still have my height. So this is a little bit of a stronger cut. So I will not do this like everywhere in the tree, maybe one cut in each branch is okay. So this one is an example that shows you how if you leave stubs, which is like this part, the tree is not able to callus. So in this case, what you want to do is actually you want to come with your saw and cut right here. So this is what you want to cut. So this is your branch bridge. In this case, you are not having a collar to cut to because you're cutting the main. I cut the main branch. So what you want to do is you're going to go with an angle and cut right here. So you're not going to cut too deep that you are making a really oval cut. You're going to try to go as rounded as possible with an angle with the branch, and you're going to go, the angle is going to be held by the branch you are cutting to. So in this case, it will go like that. Again, I'm going to explain that again. So in this case, if I am cutting to this one, my cut is going to be here. If I am cutting to this one, my cut is going to be here. So my shears are always pointing to the branch I am leaving, and that is going to give you my directionality. So in this case, it's going to be here. So I'm going to come and cut right here. So that gives you my angle. So I'm telling the branch to go that way. In this case, if I'm going to cut to this branch, I'm going to come here. So you see my cuts. So my cuts are not, so if I am going to do a bad cut, this will be a bad cut. I actually, well, this is not a bad cut. If I'm going to do a bad cut, it will be something like this. So this is kind of like too close. You see how the cut end is way lower than what the branch is growing to. So that is gonna be, it's gonna take longer to cut. So you wanna cut a little bit more circular. So you can see the difference between my cuts. This one is more circular. This one is more oval. So this is a bad cut. This is a good cut. So, yeah. Any questions about the cuts?
Well, I want to comment first that as a designer, I see gardens, I see hundreds of gardens a year, and it's really important if you do have an ornamental maple that they're not being hacked away, because you can clearly see the difference between your pruning style and something that's not as sort of detail oriented. And it really makes all the difference in the accent in the garden and the form of the tree and everything. So this is really valuable information. Some people were asking, because they did notice some of your sample cuts that you were cutting the branches that were larger instead of the smaller branches. So was that just more because you were directing the shape of the tree? I mean, is it a clear rule whether or not you're pruning the smaller branches or the larger branches?
Well, there is not a rule, but there is kind of like a pattern. So what happens is most of the time when I am looking at reducing the tree, what I end up seeing is the stronger branches are the ones that are thicker, and they are just going up there because they are the strongest ones. So those are the ones that I end up cutting because I want to have that regular growth. So this is what I mean with regular growth. So if I have branches that are growing this strong, so then this, you can see that they are strong for the amount of growth a year and for the thickness. So these will be the ones I want to keep because it's going to look more beautiful. And also because this is if I leave the little branches, I have less growth from them. If I am cutting the little ones and I'm leaving these ones, so then I'm going to have more growth because I'm leaving the strongest branches. So in general, I have the tendency to cut the bigger branches just because in most of the situations, I am actually containing the tree, keeping it small. There are few situations when I remove little branches, and that will be when I'm thinning I am making the spaces in between the branches. I am doing the branch definition, or in the weeping maples, I'm giving that definition of that flow branch cascading down. So that is when I cut the little ones, because I am cutting the ones that are going up or the ones that are going the wrong way. But in most situations, most probably, I'm cutting the thicker ones.
Mm-hmm. There's several questions on sunburn. What does that look like on the tree?
Sunburn. So sunburn, the bark. I'm just seeing if I see. Okay. So sunburn, the bark start doing something like this. Mm-hmm. So you can see, in this case, it may not be sunburn, but it looks like this. So what happens is start peeling and peeling. So what happens is if the branch is being exposed and it start getting sunburn, it may, like this one, for example, is like, let's say that this is sunburn, because it looks exactly like sunburn. If it's 1 year of sunburn or 1 season of sunburn, the tree is able to take it and wall off. But if it's constant year after year after year, this is going to start peeling and peeling and peeling and peeling, which means it's walling off and burning, walling off and burning. It's like the same thing that happens with your skin. So what happens is at the end, the tree stops trying to wall off that wound. So they start splitting open and splitting open and splitting open and becomes a hole in there. So when they get sunburned, the problem is nothing will grow in this section because the cambium and the buds, the dormant buds, everything is being burned and dead in there. So that's why sunburn is so important, especially in maples.
Can you also tell on the leaves, like won't the leaves get browning in the center too, or do you just more look at the bark?
I look, well, sunburning the leaves is okay because the leaves will die and come back. Like they get sunburned, and then that's why in the summer I put hardening of the leaves. So what happens is in spring the leaves come out and they are really delicate. You touch them and they are really delicate. In summer, when you touch them, they are a little bit harder, so they can take the sun better. So when the leaf gets sunburned, it's just the leaf, and they sometimes even drop off, and they will come, a new one will come out. So for me, sunburning the leaf is not as important and the bark, just because if the bark gets sunburned for years and years and years, so then it becomes a really big wound. And I have like branches like this thick, being like branches like those horizontal branching, having sunburn here, and then I have to start treating the tree because it gets in that hardwood in the inside, and then I have to make holes because now water sits on that hole, and it becomes like a longer problem. So the problem with sunburn is mainly in the bark because it becomes a bigger problem in the long run. So and usually what I do is if I have a tree that's having a sunburn, so I had that whipping tree that I showed you, the red one, I showed you guys that was really thick, and then I cleared it out. At the beginning, that was having sunburn because of the way it was pruned. So what I did is I left all these little growths. So if this is the tree, I left all these little growths in this little growth that comes out. I try to keep these little growth in the branches because they develop. If it develop in this section, I try to leave them to protect those sections from keep having sunburn.
So that would be your method of helping with sunburn. You wouldn't like paint it with anything, like.
Yes, I have painted. So for example, the ones that I told you was like that. It was a lace leaf maple, the dome shaped one, and it was the main structure that had the sunburn. So what I did is I painted it. The hole was already there. So what I did is I drill holes in the under section, so the water when the rain came, the water will drain, and every year I go and clean those holes. So every winter I have that drainage happening, so there is no more corrosion going any other way. And I painted, but I painted with a sealer, the sealer that you guys sell that I don't have example right now. I just to keep the hardwood from corroding. If I had a maple in Walnut Creek that is planted, and is the trunk is really short, it's like 2 feet from the ground, but that is the only place that is gets the sun all day every day, so it got sunburn in there. So what I did is, I was a little late, but what I did for the rest of the trunk not to have that same problem is I painted it with white paint. My client was not too happy, and I have to actually talk to him until I was able to convince him, because what happened is they almost, if I don't do that, they will lose the whole tree, because the wound became this big. So my trunk is like that, and you have a wound this big. So if it keeps happening that the wound keeps growing and growing and growing, so then you can, it was in the trunk. So in that case I did paint with white, and they were all frustrated. So we do that is a white paint, no oil, but water paint.
Oh,
White.
just like a tempera or something, or like, I don't know.
Yeah,
Like,
no, I
or like
do.
a craft paint. I don't like, yeah.
Yeah, I do. So white reflects the light, so you can
Oh,
use any. So I bought the one for painting the houses. I bought the little one, water base, and I go there and I paint it in spring. I paint, no, actually, like, yeah, in spring when I do my spring pruning, which is kind of like April, May, I go and painted it, and it stays there. And when the rains happens, it'll run, it clears off.
interesting. That's a great tip.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
doesn't look good, but
Yeah.
you save it.
I know, but I think that clearly that's the difference between, somebody, a professional pruner, because you know that you sort of need to take the step to save the health of the tree.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting. With regards to soil and soil acidity, I mean, do you feel, do you need to test the pH at all, or do you add acidifiers every season? Do you like using compost around the trees versus fertilizer, or do you have any particular advice on that?
Yeah, I will say, I try not to disturb the soil. So pretty much, I was reading this book and it was saying the second most important part of the tree is the root system. You have your foliage and then the root system. So the soils are actually, like, we need to realize that nature is really smart and soils have their way to work. So I try not to change pH in the soil unless that is like really necessary, because what happens is when I see like when you unbalance the pH in the soil, it end up being really hard to balance it back. Maples are not particularly to any pH. So I will say don't do it unless that you really, really have to, especially not for maples, you don't need to. I try to, with the example I was giving to you guys, that consultation last Sunday, when we realized that every cat was having dieback and no growth, what we realized is that the tree was kind of like suffocating a little bit because it was too much water in the soil. That soil was clay soils. Clay soils are not bad. Clay soils are good in the sense that they are really rich. They have a lot of nutrients. The problem with clay soil is that the structure is too tight. So it's hard to get the water out of there for the plants, It's like poor drainage. But if you put compost or work in the soil by putting mulch, so then your structure is going to change, and then you don't even have to try to fertilize or anything. So what we decided with this person to do is, I told him, instead of putting mulch, put a compost layer every year. So you start changing your structure from the ground up. So pretty much you are doing what nature will do. Put something on top and start changing the structure trickling down when decomposed. And also what I say is make holes throughout, like what you do with the grass. Some people go and make holes for aeration.
With the aerator,
So we decided to,
with an aerator or something, like yeah.
Yeah, so a little bit of holes in the area. And so what happened is, and the reason why also we thought about it is because when you look at the root system, there was a root that was doing this. So the soil was here and the root was sticking out. And so that is telling me, oh yeah, the tree is just feeling this is too much water. There is no good drainage. The tree is super close to the lawn. So then there is a good aeration. So for the soils, everything I say is, if you have a clay soil, start adding compost. Even if you add this little compost every year or every season, you're going to change a little bit that structure. Little by little. I will not suggest to rototill anything just because you have your microbes and everything. There is also like In slows, they have something to generate, to give a little bit of that fungi growth.
Mycorrhizae. We have the mycorrhizae. And
Yeah.
I also like gypsum is good for clay soil too.
Yeah, gypsum is good for clay soil. Gypsum changed a little the pH, so you want to be mindful of maybe, again, like pruning, putting a little bit and letting it be, putting a little bit, don't put the whole bag because then you change the pH. But put a little bit of gypsum to change that clay soil. So the clay soil, what is going to happen with gypsum is it doesn't tie it up anymore. It just kind of releases a little bit. With compost is the best because we compost and that fungi thing that you said, what was it?
Mycorrhizae.
Mycorrhizae. Those two things are the best because not only help for the soil to separate and not getting so tied up, but also feeds the microbes, which the microbes are the ones that are decomposing and helping the tree to get all those nutrients. So I would say those two are the best thing that you can put in your soil for any situation. Well, no pots, but yeah.
Well, this has been incredibly informational. I've learned a ton myself, and I can only imagine everybody else has learned a lot too. I do want to remind you all that there will be a recording of this by Tuesday morning on our website. So everybody that's asking about slides and whatnot, you can access it. You can see them in the recording, and you can pause them and you can screenshot them or whatever. So that'll be Tuesday morning on our website. And then if you have additional questions, feel free to email me at jenstrobel@slotgardens.com. Elizabeth's, her contacts under her email at gowithnature.net. I do want to remind you again that Elizabeth will be back. I know she's super popular, and so I think you have a following at this point, Elizabeth, and she'll be back March 13th for acid lover pruning. So acid lovers, we're going to be talking about azaleas, camellias, rhododendrons, and hydrangeas. And then she'll also be back on March 27th for citrus pruning. So those are really popular classes. Be sure to register. And then I also wanted to share that next weekend, we'll be doing a class on preparing for your vegetable garden. So we're basically going to swing into spring here, and it's going to happen pretty quick. And so hopefully these classes will help prepare you. And I'm really excited that you all could join us. Thanks again, Elizabeth.
Yeah,
It's
you're welcome.
looking to be a nice day out again. So hopefully everybody gets outside, maybe prunes their maples or something. So I really appreciate everything. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Bye.
Take care.